Hello and welcome back to the port. I'm Gav Major, and this is a video regarding AA cruiser builds, I guess you could say. What can we do? What commanders we got? What is best, range or damage? And what is the best build that you could do in the game? So, for this video, we're going to be playing the Devonshire while we're discussing these things and running those numbers. The reason why we're playing the Devonshire is she has a very good anti-aircraft complement for a tier 5 cruiser. She's got 2 single and 10 dual gun 20mm Oerlikon, which offer a total of 68 DPS for a range of 2 kilometers. She also has 4 toplet 40mm pom-poms, which offer a DPS of 79 for a range of 2.5, and last but not least she has 4 dual gun 4-inch dual purpose anti-aircraft guns, which have a DPS of 72 and a range of 5 kilometers. So as you can see, quite a lot of nice good numbers. The only downside really here is a lot of those numbers are for what you would call a close range AA capability, which is those 40mm pom-poms and 20mm Oerlikons, which is only 2.5 and 2 kilometers range. Now we're trying to obviously see what's going to go down with their torpedo aircraft, so I'm going to quickly make a maneuver here in order to improve my AA contribution to these torpedo aircraft coming in, and we are going to use a defensive AA5 consumable. And we are getting a couple of good hits here. So, when it comes to AA, obviously we've just gone over the stats. We've got range and we've got damage per second. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to try and quantify those numbers into actual amounts of damage without having an aircraft speed, I guess you could say. So that's one thing we've had to do here. We're going to assume that aircraft will be travelling at a speed of 160 knots. Now they may be travelling faster due to commander inspirations and traits, and also through the engine boost. However, we're going to go with the 160 as the base speed for a aircraft at this tier is an averaging about 150 to 155 knots. So with that 160 knot, and assuming the aircraft has to fly the entire distance from your outside AA bubble to the centre of your ship, your base amount of AA potential damage, I guess you could say, is 1,667. Now if you're doing an AA commander build, or at least an AA cruiser build, I guess you say, there's a couple of things that you can start off by taking. One of those things that you can take is AA Guns Module 2, and this will improve your AA range by 20%. And so by doing so, this would take your potential damage up under the same criteria to 2,000. Alternatively, you can take No Fly Zone with your commander build, which is the first trait, and if you have that fully upgraded, then you can improve your... Ooh. Okay, we're right to go broadside on here, I think. So if you take that, what you're looking at in regards to the amount of damage for just having No Fly Zone is 1,925. Now, obviously, ideally, you probably want to be taking both. So if you take both, your potential AA damage does go up to 2,313. Now, we've just got to get our bearings a little bit, because this engagement is getting a little bit tight, I guess you could say. So, what we can take away is obviously taking both is better, but ideally you want to be taking AA Guns Module 2 if you want to maximise your, if you want to take at least one but maximise your AA capability. So AA Guns Module 2 is more important than taking No Fly Zone. So, after that, you can start using commander inspirations, and in game there are 2 non-pay-to-win commander inspirations that you can pick for your commander, which are King and Yamaguchi. King improves your AA range by 8%, and Yamaguchi improves your AA DPS by 10%. Individually, which one's better? Well, if you take just King, AA Guns Module 2 and No Fly Zone, you're looking at a total AA damage of 2,495. If you do exactly the same but swap King for Yamaguchi, you're looking at 2,542. Therefore, if you need to take only a single AA counter ability, ideally you want to be taking Yamaguchi. Now, one thing people might ask is, what's better, range or damage? Well, in this one, out of the two base commanders, you're probably better off taking range. However, it works out that 10% of range is the same as 10% of damage overall. So, in between the two, there's not really much difference. But we'll have a further discussion about range versus damage later on. Now, if you take both Yamaguchi and King, the total potential damage will go up to 2,745. So that is what I call your no pay-to-win AA build, which is what we're running in this game. Now, there's a couple of options where you can focus on a single thing. You could focus purely on damage, or you could focus purely on range using the pay-to-win commanders. So the pay-to-win commanders that you have in-game are Archipelago of Blue Steel to KO. Now what she does is she improves AA damage by 5% and also improves rudder shift. And then obviously, last but not least, you can take Azure Lane Montpellier. She will improve AA range on cruisers by 10%. Now, what are we looking at when you say take a pure damage focus build, or you take a pure range build? So if you take a pure damage build, you would be taking Yamaguchi and also Archipelago of Blue Steel to KO, and that would take the potential damage to 2,669. So a pure damage build is not really worthwhile or advantageous enough. Alternatively, you could go for your pure range build. If you took a pure range build, then you'd take King and Montpellier, and what you'd be looking at if you did that is a total potential damage of 2,745, which works out exactly the same as taking the no pay to win balanced build, I could say, with Yamaguchi and King. So in that regard, there's not really much advantage of going for a pure damage or pure range build with a pay-to-win commander, I guess you could say. However, obviously Montpellier does offer you more range, and therefore there is a obviously advantageous build which is available, which will give you more damage. So if you take a pay-to-win balanced build, I could say, where you do the best of your damage and your best of your range, you can do a Yamaguchi and Montpellier build, basically improving damage by 10% and range by 10%. Now if you do this, the potential damage will go up to 3,355, which is the highest amount. So that's your best potential commander build, I guess you could say. Now, there's one last thing that you can do, and that's defensive AA Fire Consumable. This improves your damage per second by 200% for a 40-second duration, and has a 150-second reload, and you get 2 of these consumables if you don't have fully packed. Now, defensive AA Fire Consumable, you are required to have to trade out having sonar for it. Now sonar is useful in every single game, whereas defensive AA Fire Consumable is only really useful against carriers. So generally I would always say defensive AA Fire Consumable is only really worthwhile if you are expecting a high quantity of carriers, or a guaranteeing a carrier, I guess you could say. So guaranteeing a carrier would be playing in a division with a carrier, whereas a high population of carriers would probably be whenever there's a new carrier tech tree release, which we just had with the Russians. Now, defensive AA Fire Consumable, is it worthwhile? On the Devonshire, it's hard to say, because defensive AA fire consumable obviously improves your AA capability, but the majority of your anti-aircraft DPS is focused at close range. So therefore, the defensive AA fire consumable is really only there for your own personal protection when those aircraft are inbound on your ship. So bear that in mind. Really, you need to know that the aircraft have committed to you, or you're in very close proximity, 3 kilometers, of the friendly vessel which is coming under attack. So in this case, I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to get within proximity. Now, when it comes to damage over range, there's always the slightly scientific way that you can go about it, and that's what's better for my team. Now, there are some arguments to be made for having AA range over damage if you're trying to be a team player, because by having more range you can cover a larger area and protect more of your team potentially, or even increase your close anti-aircraft bubble to protect ships which are in close proximity to you. However, damage obviously will be there to improve your own personal protection, so I think that's kind of the two sides of the coin. Now that's my last defensive AA fire consumable, and we have managed to get clear the skies. Admittedly, our overall performance has been a little bit lacking, I guess you could say, because I have been partially distracted while reading through my notes, but I have been trying to provide the best anti-aircraft capability for my team. At least that's what I'm hoping. Now, one thing is always worth to mention is in the late game when you start to get focused by carriers, because obviously the rest of the team starts to disappear, your positioning of your ship or manoeuvring of your ship to reduce incoming damage from the aircraft will obviously be something that you'll want to actively partake in. What this means is trying to stay nose on to torpedo aircraft, so you'll be trying to avoid offering them your broadside by staying nose in. You'll be offering a more narrow target to those incoming torpedoes. And you want to do the same to the Russian skip bombers as well. Staying nose into them means that obviously you can slip between the bombs if you're lucky. However, should it be the other bombers, the AP bombers or the HE bombers of the Japanese, American and Royal Navy, then you'll be wanting to try and offer them your broadside. The reason being is the ellipse of the bombs is based upon trying to land the bombs along the length of your ship, and therefore by trying to avoid offering them the length of your ship to get the maximum damage, you should be alright, so try to stay broad onto them. In regards to the positioning of your ship and to 2AA damage, it doesn't necessarily matter whether your ship is broadside onto said aircraft or nose onto those aircraft. Your DPS is the same all the way around. And as you can see here, I'm just trying to keep sailing almost towards the aircraft, trying to get my AA bubble active. And you can see the majority of the times that the aircraft gets shot down is when they're inside my close AA bubble, which is probably reasonably extended, I guess you could say. And I guess another one that's worth mentioning is when it comes to picking on aircraft, fighters are easier to shoot down than the actual strike aircraft. So if you are looking for clear skies, trying to maneuver towards enemy fighters will obviously be slightly more advantageous, I guess you could say, in comparison to taking out the strike aircraft. Although moving towards the strike aircraft and denying them a clear route towards friendlies is obviously another thing to do, especially when you consider the majority of your AA capability is within your close AA bubble. Anyway, so that game, only 32,000 damage from 40 hits on target and 3 fires, also getting 2 defender ribbons, capture and a capture assist, but shooting down 32 aircraft. And like I said, I'm not using the pay-to-win commander with this build. I am using Tennant with no fly zone, with AA guns module 2. I'm also using King and Yamaguchi, so there's no pay-to-win here, so obviously I can actually improve this AA build a little bit more. I am taking defensive AA fire consumable because I am playing with a carrier, which is Kriv. I'd obviously like to give Kriv a shout out. Many thanks for participating and helping me get this video recorded. But yeah, so positioning on the team, third, not going to complain too much about that considering I was dilly-dallying around and reading out notes and mostly focusing on shooting down aircraft. But it's a victory at the end of the day, so I'm not going to complain. And I'm the only person in my team to get a medal. Woo! Economy-wise, walking away with total profit 135,000 credits for premium count, but hey, that's nothing really to shout about, I guess you could say. Oh well, I hope you enjoyed this discussion regarding anti-aircraft builds on cruisers and what's really best to go for. And if you did enjoy it, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you enjoy this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. And until next time, I'm the Gaff Major, and back to the board.
Hey, hey, clear the way, here comes the galloping Major. Bumpity, 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 bump. Get out of the way there, you fellows, unless you want me to run you down. I guess this is the life. Now, hey, hey, clear the way, here comes the galloping